Hi all, this is Dr. Dave Maslach talking to you about my peer proofreading and editing platform, reciprocity.com. Check it out. Check it out. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure, if you think this is a great idea, if you want your own work edited, proofread, anything like that, purchase some credits and try it out. Hopefully you'll like it. So I wanted to talk to you today about the sort of behavioral science behind why it's so difficult, or how come it's so difficult to check your own errors in your work. And so I myself, I'm a researcher at a large large research school in Florida. I study innovation, entrepreneurship, technology, but I do study a lot of sort of on the behavioral side and trying to understand how people actually work, particularly within organizations, or how we actually work on a day-to-day basis, right? So, and I do take a sort of economic slant on this, and there's many different views on this, or if you're thinking about the mind and things like that, it's not the view that I personally take. So I don't know a lot about the mind and the inner sort of chemistry and neurochemistry and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to be upfront about that. So why is it so difficult to check your own paper for errors, or your own written work for errors? Well, this actually has to do with us as being very efficient processors of information. So people are very, very efficient processors of information. The one way that we actually process information, the one way that we can actually speed up how we can quickly process information, is by doing little shortcuts and sort of skipping things or looking for trends. We are actually really good, human beings are really good at spotting trends. And this is, I mean, if you think of sort of the evolution behind this, it actually makes a lot of sense, right? So what you want to do as a human being is economize on your resources when you're going out into the jungle or wherever, thousands, hundreds of thousands of years ago, and you want to spot things that are moving and things that are stationary. The things that are stationary are going to go into the background because you are wasting your resources. You really need to concentrate on the things that are moving. So what are the things that are moving? Right, so those are more, or things that are moving or brightly colored and things like that. So those are potential sources of food, right? So if you're thinking about scavenging, what are the things that are typically yummy to eat? Well, they're berries, and maybe you might find some nuts. It's a little bit more difficult, but things like that are really brightly colored. So we're going to pay attention to things that are brightly colored. The other things about the things that are moving, well, what are those? That's potential sources of food, right? Small animals, as well as large animals that we want to run away from because they're really, really scary and they may actually get you, right? So at that point, we're going to run away. So if you think the way, and if we're applying this into a sort of modern day setting, what does that mean that we're going to do? Well, the presumption is, when we are processing or thinking about our own writing or our own work, the presumption is we're going to work like a machine. So we're going to work, we're going to process everything, every single word, and incremental steps, right? So that's the way that we're kind of taught in school, or what we all assume that everybody else should be doing, right? Or teachers assume that everybody else should be doing, is they should be writing sequentially and thinking through each thing very systematically. But that's not the way how humans actually think. And it's not the way that humans are actually processing information. What we're doing is we're looking for patterns. So if you see a series of words in a row, you're going to assume that the next word is going to be so-and-so, right? So your mind is probably going to skip through that. You're going to make this sort of shortcut and skip through that. If you have a sequences of words, a sequences of sentences in a row that sort of have the same pattern, you're going to skim through that and skip those particular sentences. So it's really difficult for your own self to look at your own writing, right? To go through, because we actually have already written down all of this stuff, and in your mind, you know how this sequence works out, and you know how the sort of written, the number of words should, or the pattern of words should actually come out, because that's the way that you talk. So you're going to skip things, right? You're going to skip periods, you're going to skip commas, you're just not going to think through it as much as you should, and that's completely natural. It's actually unnatural for us to force ourselves to think in a way that we have to do things step by step by step by step. It's really difficult to do, right? And that's why we go to school for a long, long time, is to force ourselves, to train our mind to think of that sort of systematic manner. And you do get better. And what actually happens as you become an expert and you become better and better at things, you're able to sort of process things much more quicker, and you're looking for sort of shortcuts in a different way, right? So there's been really interesting studies about radiologists, how they're paying attention to, how they're paying attention to the foreground and background of the radiology studies that they're looking for. Because they're an expert, they're looking at specific things, but they might miss other things in there. So that means that we are going to make mistakes. We are going to make a lot of mistakes when we're writing. And that is completely natural. So how do you get around making these errors? Well, one way that you can do is sort of cheat yourself, right? The way that you can cheat yourself, a lot of people do, is they put up that work for a while. They put it up for maybe a week, 2 weeks once they've written the material. And then they come back to it. And then they are sort of putting themselves as a different person, and they're thinking through this because they forgot about a lot of this stuff. So you're using this behavioral limitation that we forget. We're not very good processors of information. We totally forget everything that we forget a significant portion of that. All the stuff that was in short-term memory, it's kind of dumped out, right? And we have to rely on long-term memory of that. And we're only going to get sort of general trends. And so it allows us to sort of systematically go through the written work that you yourself did a little bit better, right? And you could probably go through it a little bit better. But you're still going to not process everything as efficiently, and you're still going to make errors along the way, because you yourself have systematic errors that you always do. Right? It's just part of being human. We have systematic errors. And so the other way that you can get around that is to get somebody else to look at your written work, right? But there's all these weird, crazy social norms that we have that we don't want to ask other people because it's actually a lot of work, and we don't want to pressure other people. So most of us are really scared to ask other people about looking at their work. And so what I wanted to do with this particular peer proofreading and editing platform, reciprocity.com, is what I wanted to do is actually create it so it was really easy to do. So what you can do is go on there and you'd be able to find different individuals, or the system would find different individuals that would be willing to proofread your work and do it in a systematic manner. So it actually would go on there and somebody else would find it. And that would allow you to find these sort of small mistakes that other people or you yourself would not find, right? And so there'd be somebody else paying attention to it and sort of processing that information, right? And there's a lot of other things that I plan to do to make that a lot more effective, the way that it currently is built right now. But right now it's just very simple, very small, modest sort of platform right now that you can go on. It works, and you can check it out. But in the long run is to build on this idea that I'm trying to reduce the number of errors that any particular individual makes when they use this. And it's to sort of play up this sort of behavioral aspects that we all have, these limitations that we have, because we're so efficient with how we think and how we conserve resources that we actually make our own mistakes from doing that. So if you like this video, you think it's interesting, you want to help out with what I'm doing, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure that you go onto the website, check it out, and purchase some credits. That's going to be reinvested into developing it, making it all the more better. All right, so take care. Have a good day. Bye.